the world, according to Jesse.
Dennis Kucinich is a two-time presidential nominee and advocate of diplomacy and world peace. Even though he's a Democrat, he appears regularly on Fox News because he wants to reach an audience with a different perspective. He says, quote, "You can't change people's minds if you refuse to talk to them." But it's this very philosophy that has gotten him smeared by the media and at times his own party. In Aspen, he and Jesse had the following conversation.
In the Congress of the United States, here's one of my heroes, Dennis Kucinich. Here's a man, independent. He was a Democrat, but not really. He was a man of his own mind who stood up to the Iraq War. Dennis, that's what I want to talk to you about today, the Iraq War. Thank you. Now, you were in Congress in 2002, 2003, when all of this came down on Iraq. We had 9/11. They put the fear into the whole country that, you know, the Taliban could do a Normandy invasion on Virginia if we didn't watch out.
Right.
Tell me what went on in that after 9/11 to the Iraq War.
Well, there was a drumbeat to try to gain support for an attack on Iraq. So what I did, as I do on everything, I did my own research. I didn't take what I was being told by certain authorities in Washington. And what I found out was this. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11, nothing to do with al-Qaeda's role in 9/11, didn't have any connection to the anthrax attack, didn't have the intention or the capability of attacking the United States, and didn't have the weapons of mass destruction that was being claimed. So I gave that in a report to members of Congress on October 2nd, 2002. People can access that on the internet today. You type in Dennis Kucinich, October 2nd, 2002, Iraq analysis. Nailed it, chapter and verse, that there was no cause for war. Well, the administration kept lying. Both parties converged. While I was able to help get a majority of Democrats, in this case, who voted against it, the country proceeded to war with devastating consequences for our soldiers, for over 1 million innocent Iraqis who perished as a result of the war. $5 trillion at least will have been misspent in that war with all the needs we have at home. I gave over 500 speeches in Congress against either going to war in Iraq, against the war, and also against going to war with Iran, which was also on the agenda. What I object to is this American imperium, this idea that somehow we have the right to establish ourselves anywhere we want. We have over 800 bases in 132 countries. And what we've done is to go around the world looking for dragons to slay, while we ignore our own problems here at home. And we are wasting the blood of our nation, the treasure of our nation, our young people. We're causing catastrophes among families in other countries. And for what? What is this all about? This is a racket. This is a way for people who make arms to cash in, and or who have government contracts to cash in. Anybody who had the eyes that I had to see what was happening, you could never, ever vote for a single penny for any wars. And from that point on, I didn't vote for a single Department of Offense budget.
What happened? What kind of fallout did you get being the opponent to this invasion?
Well, it came from many different levels. In the media, it came like, what do you know? You're not even a patriot. Are you even an American? I mean, it was that kind of heavy-handed implication. And the political parties, you know, once the war starts, you're supposed to fall in line, support the troops. I said, bring them home. You want to support the troops.
Bring them home.
But the problem today we have in Washington is both political parties have converged with the military-industrial complex, fulfilling President Eisenhower's nightmare and setting America on a path towards destruction. We will not be able to rescue our nation from a cataclysmic war unless we change course, unless we challenge this two-party duopoly that's committed to war, unless we realize that our position in the world was never, ever meant to be a cop on a beat, a global cop.
Sure.
Ever. And so, you know, in my efforts, which continue today, I look for ways to avert conflict, to use diplomatic solutions, to talk to people, and to challenge at its core this idea that somehow you can solve things by blowing up other people.
More up to date now. What about the fact-finding mission to Syria?
There were people in Syria who were righteous advocates of reform within the government.
Sure.
But what happened is Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and the United States and other countries helped to fund insurgents from over 90 different countries. They armed them, they invaded Syria, and tried to knock off the government of Syria and put in place a government that would be, run by a particular religious sect of Islam. The United States has not played a clean hand in Syria. I went there to find out what was going on. I met with the Syrian leaders. I met with the Syrian people. I met with the opposition.
And how were you greeted when you did that?
People appreciated it. Somebody came to find out.
Oh, they did, but I mean here. No, Dennis, I know they probably, they thought this is fantastic. No, I want to know, what about the status quo back here of you going over there? You a traitor again?
Yeah, you get smeared.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens. Look, when I tried to stop the war in Libya, my phone in my congressional office was tapped by one of the agencies. And so that they could get conversations that I was having with individuals connected with Libya who were trying to tell me they don't want a war, they worked with the Bush administration, they want to find a way to avert it. And so I took the information they gave me to the State Department, ignored it, the White House ignored it, and later on a transcript, and not just a transcript, a tape of the conversation was released to the Washington Times. So, this is the kind of game that goes on. Now,
so they had you wiretapped?
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. But you know what? Look, I don't have your size, but let me tell you, I'm not afraid of anybody. I could care less about what they say they're going to do to me.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about what they're doing to our soldiers who serve, to innocent people abroad, to the future of the United States. We have to stop this interventionism, unilateralism, first strike. We have an obligation to defend our country, but this isn't about defense, this is about offense.
Absolutely.
Jesse?
I despise the culture they've created in this country. And yes, I'm a veteran, but I get offended when they tell me, thank you for defending our freedom. Because in my lifetime, I do not believe our freedom has ever truly been in jeopardy. From Korea to today, I don't think our freedom has been in jeopardy to where someone was actually going to try to take over the United States of America. And we'll finish now. Dennis, thank you very much. And I just want people to understand something. Remember this as a Vietnam veteran. It is not the soldier you blame. It's the failed politician is the reason there's war.
I'm with you on that, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, we're reaching the end of the show, Governor, so it's time for some questions and comments from your fans. White Oak Queen asks, quote, am I the only person who's pissed the DOD used millions of taxpayer dollars in a recession to promote patriotism?
No, I don't think you're the only one angry or pissed off over that. I think a lot of us are. I mean, when they take our tax dollars and they use that to promote something with the National Football League, let's remember these are billionaire owners who we've already built billion-dollar stadiums for, and now we have to pay them to be patriotic to the very people who are giving them their billionaire livelihood. I think it's pathetic, and we have every right to be angry over it.
Now, Joshua Tutel says, so why not remove the anthem ceremony from the game completely? It has no business at a sporting event for your entertainment.
I agree totally. What is the purpose of the national anthem? Like I said, it reminds me of the Romans. When they get ready to turn the lions loose on the Christians, they have to pay respect and play the anthem and all that before they do it. There is no purpose for the national anthem at a sporting event. None whatsoever. There's no need for it. We're all patriotic. Why do we have to stand up at a sporting event and prove our patriotism? To me, that's nationalism, not patriotism.
Absolutely. Now, Governor, that's all we have time for today. But before we go, I want to hear your final thoughts. Do most Americans still want to have the anthem before the game?
I don't know if they do or don't. I'm sure they're locked in because they've been trained that way, and it's been in the culture now since I can remember. You go to games and hear the national anthem, and people are reluctant for anything that changes or takes them out of that comfort zone. But I think in this case, it would be a good idea. There's no reason whatsoever to play the anthem before a sporting event.
Governor, you always say there are no millionaires in the Army, so do you think we should draft some to the Army?
I think this. I think all these flag-waving people that tell you how patriotic they are, if they're older now and they have 2 young strapping sons and all that, I would throw it out. Why aren't your kids serving? You know, here's my position on war. Anyone that votes to go to war, they should have to pre-designate a family member who at the point of that vote has to begin military service, so that these people that send us to war have a dog in the fight. Right now, the majority of them do not have a dog in the fight. And I'll end it on that, and I'll tell people, always remember this: when the government lies, the truth becomes a traitor. Stay vigilant.
All right, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for tuning in. Send us your comments on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be back next week with another installment from The Road featuring the one and only Dr. Ron Paul. We'll see you next week.
I'm Jesse Ventura. Stay vigilant and question more.
Welcome to my world. Come along for the ride.
The world according to Jesse.